Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Mr Assistant Speaker. This Labor Greens government has,
just a second, you just need to move the motion.
Sorry, I moved the motion standing in my name on the notice paper relating to dangerous dogs.
The question is the motion be agreed to. Ms Lauder.
Thank you, Mr Assistant Speaker. Quite happy to repeat the fact that the Labor Greens government has for years been reluctant to address the serious and growing issue of dangerous dogs in Canberra. They have seriously underestimated the impact that uncontrolled and dangerous dogs have on our community. Last year, they were dragged kicking and screaming by my colleague, the late Mr Dospot, to make even minor changes to dangerous dog legislation and make commitments to properly resource patrols and investigations. Now the government have had to deal with the tragic results of their disregard of this issue. It's now 2018 and almost every day we, on this side of the chamber, hear of more tragic stories caused by uncontrolled and dangerous dogs. And we continue to hear about maladministration by the government in managing the issue. Last year, Minister Fitzharris failed Canberrans by not taking decisive action on uncontrolled and dangerous dogs, and she continues to fail Canberrans on this issue. The motion today calls on the government, pretty modest calls on, to provide the information on something they said they would do. And I don't expect there to be any objection to the motion today, but I'll go back to that later. First, let me recap on why we on this side of the chamber took up the case of dangerous and uncontrolled dogs. The government's own dog attack figures are telling. 85 dog attack investigations in 2012 to 13, 93 dog attack investigations in 2013 to 14, 245 dog attack investigations in 14-15, and 360 dog attack investigations in 2015-16, an increase over 3 years of about 400%. In the face of this dramatic escalation of the dog situation, the dangerous dog situation in Canberra, early last year, Mr Dospot and the Canberra Liberals took action. After a period of genuine public consultation, Mr Dospot said in March last year in the Assembly, "From figures given to me by the government, a person presents to hospital emergency departments in Canberra because of dog attack every 3 days, and this rate is increasing and it's unacceptable." Later in the year, the government confirmed what Mr Dospot had said. The problem was increasing to 389 attack investigations in 16-17 and the issuing of 14 dangerous dog licences, an increase of dangerous dog investigations of over 4.5 times, or 450%, in only 4 years in dog attack investigations. Mr Dospot went on to warn in the Assembly, "The government has obviously lost control on this issue and something needs to be done before more innocent pets are injured or killed or a human tragedy occurs from dog attack." Mr Assistant Speaker, these words have come back to haunt us. Since we took on this issue of uncontrolled and dangerous dogs, dozens of innocent pets have been savaged, mauled and killed by roaming dogs. Sometimes the attacks occur in the owner's own homes. The animal suffering, let alone the human suffering, is immense. And heartbreakingly, within months of Steve's warning, a human tragedy did occur in Canberra from a dog attack. In a motion to the Assembly on the 29th of March last year, Mr Dospot called on the government to 1. Allocate more resources to investigate serious attacks by dogs. And in the answer to that call, Minister Fitzharris changed the motion to read, "Consider allocating more resources." The Minister also said, "I'm pleased to advise that in the past 12 months there has been a renewed focus of domestic animal services staff on customer service and communication, especially the importance of keeping victims of dog attacks informed on the progress and outcomes of investigations." So, we needed more staff, we needed more commitment from staff. And then later, in a ministerial statement on the management of dogs, the Minister referred to the resolution in the Assembly in March 2017 to consider allocating more resources to investigate attacks by dogs. She still didn't strongly commit to it at that point. After a tragic death due to a dog attack in October, Minister Fitzharris said on the radio, "I've spoken to the Directorate and we will get more rangers." She said in a media release, "As previously announced, there'll be a doubling of the number of animal rangers and they'll introduce new roles into domestic animal services." So the government was doubling the number of rangers, providing additional resources for DAS, and additional 8 rangers being recruited. Unfortunately, as recently as 20th of April this year, 20th of April 2018, just a few weeks ago, a DAS employee wrote in an email to a member of the public who had complained about a dog issue, I quote, "We are understaffed." About 3 weeks ago, we are understaffed. Mr Assistant Speaker, we continue to get report of lack of response times from DAS, and now we see that the staff themselves are complaining about being understaffed. They're under enormous pressure. Let me take you through one very, very sad case. On the 23rd of November last year, 3 dogs entered the private property of Mrs Robin Colless in Banks and killed her pet cat. Mrs Colless says, and I quote, "As her owner, not only am I mourning the loss of my beloved companion, but I'm also dealing with the traumatic experience of being the one that found her in the gruesome state she was left. Finding her in the state the 3 dogs left her after the attack has been one of the most painful and distressing experiences of my life. Since this event, I've found it hard to leave my house without imagining the dogs returning to my property." Mr Assistant Speaker, I can only imagine the trauma experienced by Ms Colless. We all find it difficult when we lose one of our beloved pets. Imagine the additional trauma of finding your beloved pet mauled on your own property and in a terrible, terrible state. I won't go into the terrible details. Ms Colless deserved to have a quick resolution of this matter so she could move on, but this was not the case. She repeatedly contacted DAS to be told of the results of the investigation into the attack on her cat on her property. In frustration, Ms Colless wrote to the Minister on the 20th of March this year, a few weeks ago. In her letter to the Minister, Ms Colless says, "This incident occurred nearly 4 months ago, and since then I have made contact with your investigator at least 3 times. With each call, I've been given many excuses as to the delay of this investigation, including we are short-staffed, we are recruiting, this has been passed to an investigator, and the investigator who had that case is on leave, etc. This incident has been so traumatic for me that I've had hypnotherapy in an attempt to dull the memory of my poor pet's torn and tortured body. And I'm still on medication to try and help me sleep at night, and yet still no action by your investigating officers." Ms Colless also contacted my office, and I wrote to the Minister on the 29th of March asking about urgent finalisation of the investigation and why there had been such a delay in responding to Ms Colless. Now, it would come as no surprise to anyone on this side of the chamber that after our motion appeared on the notice paper referring to Ms Colless, that yesterday at 4 p.m, Ms Colless was called by an employee of DAS. Ms Colless tells me this is the first time DAS had initiated a call. She was told that 2 of the stray dogs that had entered her property and killed her cat had been put down. The DAS member couldn't tell her when that happened or what else would happen, but that the owners would, and I quote, "probably be fined." The DAS member could not say why she had not been informed earlier. As of close of business yesterday, 8th of May, over 5 months after the attack, there had been no letter to Ms Colless or to me from the Minister. Ms Calles was told on the phone by DAS yesterday when asked about a letter that, I quote, "we could probably manage that." I'm reminded of the comments by the Minister in this Assembly on the 29th of March last year in response to Mr Dospot, and I'll quote it again. "I'm pleased to advise that in the past 12 months there has been a renewed focus of domestic animal services staff on customer service and communication, especially the importance of keeping victims of dog attacks informed on the progress and outcomes of investigations." So over a year since that assurance in this place to Mr Dospot, 5 months since the attack on this poor woman's poor cat, 5 months until this victim was informed of the progress of the investigation.